All right, so let's dive into this pretty wild news that broke just recently. President Trump, held a crypto summit at the White House. Can
Yeah,
you believe it?
it's pretty shocking.
So we are going to try and unpack all of this and figure out what it means, for crypto, for the dollar,
Right.
and maybe even how you think about your own money.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is how this summit changes the whole, conversation, the whole narrative around crypto. We're talking about a digital Fort Knox,
Right,
a
yeah.
U.S. digital asset stockpile.
Yeah.
These aren't just, catchy phrases.
Yeah.
This seems like a major shift in how the U.S. government is viewing cryptocurrency.
I'm with you. It feels like a huge jump.
Yeah.
And it seems like it all happened really fast.
Yeah.
What exactly is this digital Fort Knox, though? It
Yeah.
sounds a little like a movie title to me.
Yeah. So the idea is that the U.S. is basically going to hold on to a bunch of Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
that was taken in criminal investigations.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, the gold reserves at Fort Knox. We're talking 200,000 Bitcoin to start with. And they're saying that they're going to hold it as a strategic financial asset, not auction it off.
So instead of just selling it off, they're holding on to it.
Right.
Why do you think that is? What kind of strategy does that point to?
Well, I think it suggests that, number one, they believe Bitcoin is going to have value, down the road, maybe even strategic value.
Right.
And it also sends a signal, not just to you and me,
Yeah.
but to other countries, that the U.S. sees crypto as a significant player in global finance.
That's a good point. And it's not just Bitcoin, right? There's also this digital asset stockpile I read that it includes Ethereum, Solana, even stablecoins. Remind me, what are stablecoins again?
Yeah, so stablecoins are basically cryptocurrencies that their value is pegged to something stable, like the U.S. dollar.
Okay.
So think of it as like a digital version of the dollar.
Gotcha.
And yeah, this stockpile is also built with crypto taken from, forfeitures, not taxpayer money.
So they're basically using confiscated assets to build up this diverse
Right.
portfolio of cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
That reminds me of, stories about pirates burying treasure.
Yeah.
Except this time it's the U.S. government and the treasure is digital.
Yeah. That's a fun way to put it. And honestly, it's not totally a new idea. Historically, governments have used seized assets to, fund different projects and things like that.
Right.
It's kind of like a modern digital version of that.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the U.S. dollar then?
Yeah.
If the U.S. government is betting on crypto, does that mean that they think the dollar is, on its way out?
Well, that's the big question. And I think it's one that a lot of people are asking right now.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, a big focus of this summit was on these stablecoins.
Right.
They handle trillions of dollars in transactions every year. And there was talk of the U.S. potentially launching its own stablecoin.
Oh, wow, a government-backed stablecoin? Wouldn't that give them even more control over how we use our money?
Yeah.
That seems like a pretty big step. What would be the advantage of that for them?
Well, some would argue that it's a way for the U.S. to maintain the dollar's, leading role in the global financial system. As more and more people use stablecoins, having a U.S.-backed stablecoin could keep the dollar at the center of that shift. So it's definitely a strategy to watch.
I can see how that would appeal to those who want the dollar to stay dominant.
Right.
But it also brings up a lot of questions about privacy and control, right?
Absolutely.
Like, how much power should any government have over digital finances?
Exactly. It raises really important questions about, how to balance innovation with regulation and, how much influence the government should have in, this digital economy that's forming. These are big questions that people are debating, and the conversation's just getting started.
Speaking of regulation, it seems like that's been a big concern in the crypto world for a long time, even with these pro-crypto announcements. Is there any real clarity on what the regulations are going to look like?
Well, President Trump did say he wants to see finalized crypto regulations by August 2025.
Okay.
So at least there's a timeline. And, they discussed a wide range of areas at the summit: crypto taxation, stablecoin oversight, even how to regulate DeFi.
Okay.
Have you heard much about DeFi?
Not a ton. It stands for decentralized finance.
Okay.
I know it's growing quickly, but I'm still a little fuzzy on how it actually works. Can you maybe give me and the listener a quick explainer?
Yeah, of course. So DeFi basically refers to financial applications that are built on, blockchain technology.
Okay.
And they aim to recreate traditional financial services, but in a decentralized manner. So that means they operate without, those traditional intermediaries like banks. It's a really interesting space. And, the summit definitely highlighted it as needing some kind of, regulatory framework.
So they're trying to encourage innovation while also figuring out how to protect people and prevent, illegal activity.
Yeah.
That sounds like a tricky balance.
It is. It is. There's a lot to consider. And the market reaction to the summit was definitely interesting. Bitcoin prices jumped quite a bit, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. Bitcoin surged 5%
Yeah.
and went over $105,000. And crypto-related stocks like Coinbase, MicroStrategy, and Riot Blockchain saw, big gains too. It seems like the market took this summit as a positive sign, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that the market viewed this as a vote of confidence in crypto. The U.S. isn't rejecting crypto. They're taking steps to, incorporate it into the system.
It definitely feels like a turning point. What do you think this could mean for, the average person who's just starting to explore crypto?
Yeah, it's like a green light for people who might have been hesitant to, get involved with crypto before.
Yeah.
Now there's this sense that the government is taking it seriously and trying to create a system that, that makes sense.
Right. It takes away some of the mystery and maybe even some of the fear, too.
Right.
This could be a huge deal for, wider adoption of crypto. Now, I know we can't give financial advice here, but is this a sign that people should be rushing out to buy Bitcoin?
Well, that's a question for each individual to answer for themselves based on their own research and risk tolerance. But I do think it's important for everyone to, understand at least the basics of crypto and how it works.
Yeah.
This isn't a fad that's going away. It's a fundamental shift in, how we think about money and finance.
I agree. It feels like we're moving into this, whole new world, and knowledge is power.
Right.
Speaking of knowledgeable people, some big names from the crypto world were at this summit.
Yeah.
What did people like Michael Saylor and Brian Armstrong have to say about all of this?
Yeah. Well, Michael Saylor, who's, a big Bitcoin advocate,
right,
was pretty thrilled, as you might imagine.
Mm-hmm.
He's been saying for years that governments should adopt Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So for him, this is a major win.
That makes sense. What about Brian Armstrong? He's the CEO of Coinbase.
Yeah.
And he's always been a, voice for responsible regulation in the crypto space.
Right. He sees this as a positive step towards creating a fair playing field for, crypto businesses in the U.S.
Okay.
And his view is that clear regulations will ultimately benefit both the industry and consumers.
So it sounds like there's a cautious optimism from the people who are really in the thick of it.
Yeah.
They see this as progress, but they're also waiting to see how all these rules are actually put into practice.
That's a very astute observation.
Yeah.
The success of these policies really hinges on the specifics of their implementation.
Yeah.
It's important to look beyond the headline,
right,
and really understand, the details.
Okay. So let's zoom out for a second and think about the bigger picture here. What does the U.S., getting into crypto mean for global finance?
Yeah.
It's a pretty big move, isn't it?
It is. It is. And it could, set off a chain reaction.
Yeah.
With other countries following suit. Imagine a world where lots of major economies hold Bitcoin.
Right.
As part of their reserves. I mean, that would change the game completely.
That's kind of mind-blowing. It makes me think about how power shifts throughout history.
Right.
If control of money is power, could this shift power dynamics between nations?
That's a very insightful question, and I think it's one we'll be grappling with for a long time.
Yeah.
It raises the question of whether we'll see, a move away from the U.S. dollar as the dominant global currency.
Right.
It's all very fascinating, and we're really just at the beginning of this story.
It is. It's a lot to take in. Yeah. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, to be honest. Trying to learn a whole new language.
I understand. It's a complex landscape, and it's constantly evolving. Yeah. But that's why we do these deep dives. We try to break things down into pieces you can digest and make connections that you might not have seen before.
That's helpful. So for our listener out there, what are some things they should be paying attention to in the coming months as all of this plays out?
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely keep an eye on the regulatory developments. We should start seeing, concrete proposals coming out of Congress and different government agencies soon. Pay close attention to how these regulations address issues like taxes, stablecoins, and DeFi.
Got it. And what about the market itself?
Yeah.
Should we be bracing for, a roller coaster ride as
Yeah.
these regulations take shape? I know the crypto market can be pretty volatile.
Volatility is always a possibility.
Yeah.
And news about regulations can definitely trigger some big price swings. But remember, long-term investors tend to focus on the underlying technology and the fundamentals of, the projects they believe in.
So don't panic and sell all your Bitcoin just because there's some uncertainty there.
Exactly. Stay informed, stay calm, and remember that crypto is still a relatively young industry. It's going to take time for things to settle.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, this summit focused a lot on Bitcoin and stablecoins, but what about all the other cryptocurrencies out there?
Right.
Where do they fit into this new world?
That's a crucial question. The focus on Bitcoin and stablecoins might be a sign that the government views those as the most important players, at least for now. But remember, the U.S. digital asset stockpile includes Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, and others.
Right.
They're not ignoring everything else.
So it's more like they're diversifying their digital portfolio, not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly. And that makes sense because, the crypto landscape is constantly changing. It's impossible to predict which projects will be the winners in the long run.
Right.
So having exposure to a range of assets is a smart strategy.
All of this makes me wonder about DeFi. Decentralized finance was, barely mentioned at the summit, but it's this huge part of the crypto world.
It is, yeah.
Do you think it's been left behind?
Not necessarily. DeFi presents both challenges and opportunities for regulators.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it offers these innovative financial solutions that give individuals more control over their assets.
But on the other hand,
it operates outside of the traditional financial system, which raises concerns about things like, money laundering, fraud, consumer protection.
So it's a tough nut to crack from a regulatory perspective.
You could say that. We're essentially witnessing, the birth of this new financial paradigm.
Right.
And it's not clear yet how it's going to be integrated into the existing system. It's a fascinating space to watch.
It really is. We've covered a lot today.
Yeah.
The digital Fort Knox, the potential for a government-backed stablecoin, the challenges of regulating DeFi. It's clear that the U.S. getting involved in crypto is a major development with implications that go way beyond, just the financial markets.
Yeah. It's a historic moment, and we're only just starting to grasp what it all means. What's clear is that, the world of finance is transforming rapidly, and we need to be prepared for a future where, digital currencies play a central role.
And that brings us back to our listener. What does all of this mean for them?
Yeah, that's the question we want you to think about. Now that the U.S. government is officially a player in the crypto game,
right?
What does it mean for you personally?
Right.
How could it affect, your own finances, your investment decisions,
right,
and your understanding of the world around you?
It feels a bit like watching this, high-stakes poker game.
Yeah.
And the U.S. just played a really strong hand.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how other countries are going to respond.
Right.
Will we see a scramble to establish their own, Bitcoin reserves?
Yeah.
It's almost like a new kind of arms race,
right,
but with digital assets instead of weapons.
It's a wild thought, isn't it? Like, we're living in a science fiction novel where the fate of nations hinges on their crypto holdings.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah.
Control over these digital assets could translate into, real economic and geopolitical power.
Right.
It's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out on the global stage.
This also makes me think about the impact on, innovation. Do you think this move by the U.S. will speed up the development of new technologies in the crypto space?
It's hard to say for sure, but I think it's a real possibility.
Yeah.
It was like a shot of adrenaline for the industry.
Right.
I would expect to see, companies and developers working even harder to create new solutions and applications that take advantage of this, shifting landscape.
Right.
We might see breakthroughs in areas like, blockchain technology, decentralized finance, and digital identity.
It's exciting to think about the potential. But of course, with any new technology, there are also risks to consider too.
Well,
what are some of the challenges that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, well, cybersecurity is a big one.
Right.
The more valuable these digital assets become,
right,
the more attractive they are to hackers and cyber criminals.
Right.
So we need to make sure that these reserves and stockpiles are protected with the highest level of security.
That makes sense. Anything else?
Well, the environmental impact of cryptocurrencies is another concern that's been discussed a lot.
Yeah.
Some cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin, use a lot of energy to mine and process.
Right.
And, this has raised concerns about their carbon footprint.
So finding ways to make crypto more energy efficient will be crucial as it continues to grow.
Absolutely. There's already a lot of work being done to develop, more sustainable mining practices and explore alternative consensus mechanisms
Right.
that use less energy. It's a challenge, but it's one that the industry is taking seriously.
And beyond the technical aspects, there are also the social implications to consider, right?
Right.
How will all of these changes impact, everyday people? Will crypto become more accessible to the masses, or will it remain something that, only tech-savvy investors can participate in?
That's a key question. It's important to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to benefit from this new technology.
Right.
And that, the advantages of crypto are shared widely.
So it's about finding the right balance
Right.
between, encouraging innovation, creating sensible regulations, and making sure that everyone has a chance to participate.
Exactly. It's about building a future where, crypto can empower individuals, strengthen economies, and create a more inclusive and sustainable world.
I have to say, I'm feeling a mixture of excitement and a bit of overwhelm right now. It really does feel like we're on the edge of like a new frontier.
Yeah.
And the possibilities are both incredible and a little daunting.
I'm right there with you. It's a time of great uncertainty, but also a time of, immense opportunity.
Yeah.
The decisions we make today will shape the future of, finance and technology for generations to come.
So what can our listener do to prepare for this new world that's taking shape?
Well, first and foremost, stay informed. Educate yourself about, cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology, and the evolving regulatory landscape.
Right.
Don't just rely on headlines. Do your own research and form your own opinion.
And be prepared to adapt, right?
Yes,
The
yeah.
world is changing quickly, and those who are willing to embrace new ideas and technologies will be the ones who thrive.
This is a time for, curiosity, for experimentation, and for challenging the status quo.
So buckle up, embrace the unknown, and get ready for an exciting ride. We've reached the end of our deep dive for today, but this conversation is far from over. We encourage you to continue exploring the world of crypto, share your thoughts, and join us again next week as we delve into another fascinating topic. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and stay ahead of the curve.
And remember, the future is in your hands.
Please help support the channel by subscribing, liking, and commenting.